joint down his leg, and he got to where he couldn't do construction work. He just retired when he was 62.
Okay, could you tell me your name and your address?
Annie Honeycutt, 60 Highland Avenue, Concord. And the zip code's 2806 28027.
Okay, great. Were you born in Concord?
No, in Charlotte,
You were born in Charlotte.
Mecklenburg.
Okay. Can you tell me when you came here to work, you and your husband came to work, and what you did?
We worked at Norcott Mill whenever first time, that's where I met him, was at Norcott Mill.
Okay.
But I had worked other mills before then.
How old were you when you first started working?
14 years old at the Brancord Mill. We went to work then at 14, you know. And then I worked at Lock Mill. I worked at Brown Mill. And then I went to work at Norcott Mill. I was working at Norcott Mill when I met my husband.
This was all in Concord or in Charlotte?
Concord. No, I left Charlotte when I was 2 years old. We moved to Concord when I was 2 years old.
What was the work like when you first started working at 14?
Well, I was so small that I went to work in the spinning room. And I was so small for my age till they didn't, they didn't believe I was 14. So to get my work card, my mother had to get somebody to prove that knew when I was born that I was that old. And whenever I went to work, the lady, they put me to spinning, and the frames is so high I couldn't reach the roping, and so they'd put me with her to learn, and I'd put up the ends and she'd do the creel and the roping. And that's the way I worked till I growed enough to take the stick and get my roping off the top of the frame. And so that's the way I worked when I went to work at 14.
What was it like to be 14 years old in a mill like
Oh,
that?
we thought we was grown. And like I quit school when I was 13. I graduated through grammar school at 13, and they were 6 children, and I was going to go to work and help the family out until, the next one come along, and then I was going to go back to school, but I done run away and got married. There's no difference between our ages, I run away and got married when I was 17. But children then went to work at 14 years old.
How many hours a day did you work?
I believe it was 10 hours a day. Like we worked went to work in the morning. Then we come home. We had an hour for dinner and come home at supper time.
What was the pace like?
Oh, the pay was not. I don't remember what I was making when I went to work, but I know I was making $11.25 a week when I got married.
You got married in what year?
1925.
Got married in 1925. So you were born in what year?
1907. September 21st, 1907.
So you went to work in 19...
Let's see, I believe I got through grammar school in 21, if I'm not mistaken. And then when school started, I went to work, when my birthday was, after my September when I was 14.
Now, were you living in the mill village all these years along?
Was what?
When you were working at these different mills, were you living in the mill village?
No, when I went to work at the Brancord Mill when I was 14, my father and mother was living in a rented house, but it was not a mill house because my father had got laid off on account of the union. That was at Gibson Mill. We had a Gibson Mill house, and there was a strike there way back years ago, and my father got laid off.
What year was that? Was that in 21 or 22?
About 20 and 21, I think.
Now that was when you first started to go to
Mhm.
work.
No, we had to move. We moved from Gibson Mill into a rented house. And when I went to work, I was 13 years old when this happened.
What can you tell me about it? Tell me everything you remember.
Well, I don't remember too much, but I know we got a lot of them got laid off, and there's 6 of us children, and back then we drawed some kind of government rations. I don't know what, like you had to take so much cornmeal and stuff. That was way back a long time ago. And so we moved in the house with my uncle over on Spring Street
Well,
when we
no.
moved.
What did your daddy do in the union? Do you remember anything?
I think he just belonged to it. He was not no organizer or anything. But they was strict about the union back then.
Was there actually a strike that they went out on, or was it
Not,
just
I don't
organizing?
remember. I think it was just organizing the union. I don't know. Remember, I was so little then. I don't remember what happened, but he got laid off, and then he went to work at Brown Mill. And
So your father got laid off from, was it a cannon mill that he was working at? It was the Gibson
it
mill?
was Cannon Mill. I guess it was Gibson.
Plant 6?
Hmm.
How old was your dad?
I don't know. I don't remember how old he is. I don't even remember. He's been dead a good long while. I don't remember what year he was born.
How did they actually make him move? I mean, can you explain
Well,
what happened?
after he got laid off, he got him another job at Brown Mill and went to work. When you went to work at another place, you had to move out of their house. So after we moved in that house and lived over there on Spring Street, they built some new houses at Brown Mill, and we moved in a new house that they had just built. The company furnished the houses. So I was 15 years old when we moved in that house, and my family lived in it till uh, after my mother and daddy passed away.
So you were 13 when you're in 21 when your dad, when they started this union.
About whenever he got laid off, I was about 13 years old, I imagine.
Did you see him go to
14.
meetings? Did he talk about it at home? What happened?
No, we talked about it. I mean, it was talked. I know enough that he belonged to the union, and the neighbors, but I didn't really get into all that. I was too young.
Did you know what a union was?
No, I just knowed it was an organization. That was all.
Wow. So can you recall, was there a union store that people used to talk about they would go and get food from?
I don't even. I know we got food, but I don't remember how we got this food. Whether the government was issuing it or whether it was the union that was issuing. I just really don't know. But I do know that we had to get so much cornmeal with so much flour, and sugar was hard to get. And my mother would make biscuits. She would mix her flour and her cornmeal together, to make biscuits so it would go farther.
Now, do you remember, did they ask you to leave the house immediately, or how did
No,
they?
I don't remember that. I don't remember whether my daddy just changed jobs and moved on his own, or I don't think they just pressured him, to get out, because I think he got out on his own.
How did people treat your family when they knew that your father was a union and he was fired?
Well, we had good neighbors. We all had good neighbors that we had looked after each other. People looked after each other back then better than they do today.
So you were living in the Gibson Mill Village
Right on Railroad Avenue.
with your family.
Well, my father had lived on we'd lived on Harris Street till we got in a 3-roomed house until we got, let's see, there were 5 children. But then when the 6th one come along, we got a 4-roomed house. So you know how crowded we was living on Railroad Avenue.
And then Daddy got fired?
Got laid off. I don't remember what he got laid off for. I can't remember that, but I do know he got laid off.
Before you said it was because of the union.
I know he belonged to the union, back then. So they was unions a long time ago.
And that was in 21. Well, that makes sense. Do you remember other people that was it a public thing or was it private?
No, I don't remember what these other people that lived on the street. Some of them people, the names on that paper there, that was living on that street at that time.
I mean, the same people that were active in 34 were active in 21.
Mhm. Some of them. Mhm. That some of the names I know. Minnie Boss, and they lived up the street from us, and a lot of them names that's there was at that mill back then too. You know.
So, was your father did blackballed? Did they allow him to
You
work?
know, I just don't remember, cause I was just weren't interested in none of the union. You know, I was just too young, cause I was going to school, and I just don't remember that far back what it was all about. But I do know that when we left Gibson Mill, it was on account of being laid off. And he went to work, got him a job at Brown Mill, went to work, and then as quick as the new house was built over there, they give it to us, and we lived in it up until after all my family passed away.
Now, how did the union ever? When did the union try and come back again? The next time
I don't remember.
was that in 34? You think? When you and your husband got active?
Uh, yeah, I remember when me and my husband got active in it.
Can you tell me
Well,
about
I was
that?
working at Plant 6 then.
And he was too.
Hmm. See, we was working at Honeycutt when we got married, but we went to work at the Gibson and had a company house over there.
And what happened? How did this whole union business start? Do you remember? Did it start before the 8-hour day or after the 8-hour day?
I think we was working 10 hours a
Right.
day.
You were working 11 and a half, 10 to 11 and a half hours, and then Roosevelt came into office.
Now, whenever Roosevelt died, we were living down here on Old Charlotte Road.
Now, in 32,
Remember what year it was?
okay. Well, around the time that you went to work 8 hours a day, was that around the same time that this union business started?
I don't remember that because the reason I was active in the union was my husband. You know, he was real active, and you know, when they get active, the wife's going to get active in it too. So I just belonged. I was just a member. As far as getting out and running around, he done that. I didn't.
Well, could you tell me what you do remember of that whole experience?
I know it was pretty rough. I know as far as our food in the winters, and we just done without a lot.
Now, that strike wasn't very long. It was only 3 weeks.
It wasn't long.
It was short. But prior to that, it seems like they did a lot of organizing. Was your husband going to meetings a lot? Was he very...
Oh, he went to all the meetings, but I can't even remember where they were at. Bill said, I asked him the other night where the office was, and he said he thought it was over uptown over a store. He didn't know. I don't reckon he knows either, because he was little, you know. He was at the small at that time.
Now, did it take a lot of courage for your husband and all these other people to be public about their union activities? Or
Well, they kept it, you know, quiet a long time, but then when they come out more in the open with it, it's when the trouble began to brew. You know, like not wanting them to organize.
what did your husband talk about? Why he wanted them to organize? Did he talk ideology with you?
Well, I think it was because it was to better ourselves. Just because, and I think it would better people today if they'd organize, if they could get them to stick together.
So what happened when this strike was on? Was your husband outside at the mill most of the time? Was he at the gate with all the other workers? What was he doing?
I don't ever remember him standing out in picket lines. Now, he might have been. I don't remember. I just don't remember. But I know they didn't have the picket lines after the home guards come in there, that's what they were brought in there for to stop that.
Do you remember?
It was kind of, I think, noisy until the home guards come in. Like they were picketing then. And after they called the home guards in, that stopped all that picketing out
How do
there.
you feel about these home guards coming in?
Well, it didn't bother me. I don't guess it did. I just lived through it all. And I stayed home and kept the kids, and he done the running around.
I'm going to show you some pictures, okay?
That looks about like it. Looking to see. Is this Gibson Mill?
Let's see. No, that's in Concord. I don't think it's Gibson Mill.
It were. It was where.
It's in Concord.
Was this plant Cannon Mill?
I don't think they're at a plant. They're just posing for a picture.
Oh, just posing for a picture. I was looking to see if I seen my husband in it.
Those are National Guardsmen.
Well, he belonged to the National Guard one time, but not at this time. He didn't. But being as he went to so many of these meetings and all, I thought maybe I could see. Let me see on that first one. That's just their backs there.
Yeah.
To go to the library and get the old newspapers, that come out at the time of these strikes. They always keep copies of them, I think, because I know a lot of people go back up there and look for information that happened.
Well, the key thing for me is to find people that can talk about it, even more than just the information.
That looks like it was made at the courthouse
Let's see.
uptown.
I think it is, yeah.
Bill? Oh, he can't.
And that's... Now, could you tell me anything about that?
No, I don't know that lady there.
Now, that woman, her name is Cleo Meismer, and she was preaching.
Cleo Meismer. I don't remember Cleo Meismer.
She was preaching, I think, against the Union.
Well, I just don't remember her. I don't even know them that's going in the gate. Cleo Meismer seemed like I just can't place that name.
If you heard her talk or you saw her picture, would that be helpful, you think?
I don't know whether I would or not. I don't have. It just don't ring a bell.
Well, it looks like from the film.
Home guards didn't want them to picket, but then when the home guards come in there, they stopped all that.
So they did pick
Held them back, they wouldn't let them.
Now, apparently, a lot of these people came here, and some of the people that were pro-union came with flying squadrons from other communities. You know, they came in cars to try and close down the mill. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that, but they probably did, because the Mills was really against it.
Could you could you recall what your husband was doing during that time?
No, nothing on it. He was just out in it. That's all I remember.
And all these folks that are on this piece of paper, they were out in it too.
They was the ones that was laid off.
Did you did you all get evicted from the homes, or did you have to leave the village?
No, after we got laid off, we all knew we'd have to move, because you just live in their homes, at their houses, when you work for them.
So you did move.
Yes, we moved.
How soon afterwards?
About 37, I think, somewhere along there. 36, 30. Let's see. Ted was 5 years old when we moved out of there, so that must have been about. These year's trials must have come in after we moved away, because but that's when they were laid off. But I can't remember how much longer, that they had been laid off when they sued the company. I can't remember the time. Ted was born in 1930, and he started the school when we moved from out of this house and moved over town, and then he started school that year. So he must have been about 6 years old when we moved.
So he was 4 during the strike, and he moved about 2 years later.
We moved about when he was about 5 or 6 years old.
Okay. And he was born in what month?
December.
Well, if you moved when he was 5, you might have moved in December of 35.
Somewhere along there, because
January of 35.
like we moved, and then when school started, in August. It usually starts in August. He started school.
The following year.
I do remember
So you probably moved in 1935.
About 35.
Okay. And it took this many years for them to
Settled it in court.
settle this.
They can put off things and put off things.
Wow.
And I don't remember, they didn't get all their wages. They got a percentage of their wages, but I don't remember how much it was.
Now I have
Let me see what his name. Where's that yeller letter?
right there.
Oh. Let me see if this Fortner is author. But I think they're Fortner in here. I might be wrong. No, it must have been a Holder. I don't see no Fortner, but it seemed like that.
This letter was written November 1st, 1934.
I don't see no Fortner. I was thinking there's a Fortner in this, but I don't see it. And now that was in this is me and Raymond Jarvis. That's on this list.
And he was in bad shape.
Oh, he wouldn't know. I don't think, I have no idea, because he's been in this nursing home with real, mentally now for about 2 years.
Well, what after this after this initial strike, and they said everybody should apply to go back to work, what happened to your husband? What did he do?
I don't know. I remember he went to work on the WPA, because my grandmother was 75 years old, and I took her to live with me because she, didn't have no home. She lived to be 86. But they made mattresses at one place. Because they give her a mattress for her bed. And I know it was in the summertime, and this lady they'd send people out to your house to see if you needed anything. And I was barefooted, going barefooted. Back then people didn't go barefooted like they do now. We wore shoes. And she asked me if I didn't need a pair of shoes, and I said, well, it's summertime. I don't mind going barefooted, but they would do things like that. And I do remember they give her a mattress. And then when my husband, it was very little they made an hour, but or a week. But and I know one of his jobs, it was so cold in the winter that the ice would freeze around the pump where we get our water here, and he would put on these hip boots and have to get out there and chop ice away from the pumps, for the city, things like that. It was hard, digging ditches and stuff like that.
And
But
how long he did that? Did he maintain his union activity?
yeah, he's still stuck to the union as long as he lived, I guess.
What I'm really interested in is how he maintained his union activity even after he left the mill.
Oh, that's when he went to work for this organizing.
Right. Uh-huh.
When he went to, and then he worked for the. I don't know how long
Okay,
he
so
worked for them.
after the strike was over, then he got laid off.
I don't remember when he got laid off during when he was active in it, but I don't remember whether it's when the strike was or not. But I don't think he went back to work after the strike.
What about you?
I was laid off at the same time.
So
They just didn't have no workforce.
okay, you could probably figure that out by your child who was
Mhm.
4 years old, right? And then you moved and he turned 5?
Yes, he was born in 1930.
So you moved.
This has got a company's local number on the back of this. Did you look at it?
Oh no.
64, I believe. Now, I don't know where this come from. They would give to him.
Local number 64.
Now, where did that come from?
IA of FM. Hmm.
Now, these had been here so long, I run upon these after me and him separated, and I just never did do away with them. But it was while he was, don't know where they come from, except that he got them when he was.
Did he wear them?
Yeah, I wore them in his shirts. They wore white shirts then with cufflinks whenever they dressed up. Well, after he went to organizing, he went dressed up all the time because he was out in public.
So you started
And I've even forgot the man that went with him when he went to Coolamy and lived up there. They boarded at a boarding house, him and a man, and went up there and organized.
That was before the war?
No, this was right after we moved. When this little boy started to school. That's when he was organizing.
That I think was in 35, 36.
Mhm.
And so he kept it up. I mean, he never stopped his union activity.
Well, after he quit the union activities, maybe in 37 or 38, quit traveling, because you see he had to leave us at home. And he quit going to other towns, and organizing, and he opened up a service station. So from that time on in, he runs service stations.
Did they continue to have meetings here in Concord? Did it seem like Red List and the others kept on having meetings?
I guess Red List always worked in it as long as he lived. I have an idea he did.
What I mean is after the strike. I mean, even after your husband got fired, he kept on going to meetings. He kept on being active.
He was active in it till I'd say 37 or 38 when he opened the service station. Went to working in a service station, and from that time on, he weren't active in the union.
Now, did you have to go to any? Did you go to this hearing and testify?
I remember about the hearing, but I don't remember having to get on the stand and testify.
What do you?
I believe they just done a settlement. Made some kind of a settlement. Worked out a settlement. That if I ain't mistaken, that's what
So
they
you
done.
went to the hearing.
That's some of that slips my mind. You wait till you get 84-year-old, you don't remember everything.
You're right. You're right. So then you went back to the mill?
In 40, let's see, he went in about 43 or 44. I went back to County Mill. They hired me back.
They didn't ask any questions about your past?
Didn't ask anything. Didn't even know. They didn't even realize I'd ever been in this mess, I don't guess.
And you went back to the same mill?
No, I went back to Plant 2.
Uh-huh. So that's why they didn't know.
And my husband, after he remarried, he went to work at Canapolis.
Why were people so frightened to join?
I don't know. I really don't know. But now, a long time ago, they used to do a lot of things. I know one time we was wanting a house when we worked at Norcott Mill. Now, I don't know whether Norcott Mill is in with the County Mill. Don't the County Mill own the Norcott Mill too? It was beside of the Brown Mill, and I know that. And I know we wanted a house one time, and it was election coming up, and they wanted us to vote their way. And they offered us a house if we'd vote like they wanted us to. I remember that. And my husband told him that he'd just do it out the house because he was a little stubborn feller.
When was that? Do you remember?
That was way back after we were married. Let's see, right after we were married.
26, 27.
Because my boy was born in
And that was
26.
they were having an election for a union?
That didn't have anything to do with the union, but they still wanted you to do what they wanted you to do. Like sometimes they asked you, now it could have been in the boss man, it could not have been the head man, I don't know. But I know that we asked for a house, was wanting a company house, and this boss man told him asked him about voting for a certain person, and that was not his party, and they offered him a house if he'd vote that way, and he wouldn't do it. So that a lot of stuff like this went on in the mill.
So your husband's name was, his full name was
Lester Cook,
Lester
Lester Alley Cook,
Lester
Alley,
Alley?
Allie.
And his first attempt at ever joining a union was in the 30s, or was it earlier than that?
Well, after the union started, when they began to organize it, he started in it from the beginning. I guess he was always a union man. His belief was union.
Now, did he make any bad enemies in the community or anything like that because he was union and
I don't think as far as people that really knew him.
because from what I hear, they say in the 30s they say the the towns were really got very divided up for those folks that did want it. Huh. During that big
Now, he didn't travel off so far. Now, I do know he boarded it went to Coolamy or up in that neighborhood and organized the mills to organize the union and would be gone a week at a time. He would never be too far before he'd come home on weekends.
That is really something. Were you frightened for him? What did you think? I mean, there was such an anti-union attitude around.
No, I just always felt like he could take care of himself.
That's really something, and
It is.
it took a lot of courage for him to do that back then.
Mm-hmm. Times was hard back then. We done without a lot of things for him to belong to the union. It put a lot of hardship on our family. But I stuck with him. Because, that's just life. If your husband believes in anything deep enough, you're going to get in it yourself and go along with him.
Now, there were a lot of women that were very involved in that.
Mm-hmm. But my children were little, and I done the staying at home, and he done the getting out and doing what he done.
Basically, what that document means is that that there really was a union local at the Gibson Mill? That in Concord there was a
Oh,
local?
yeah, they were organizing the union. That's what all the strike and the problem was about in '34.
And did it seem like they had gotten very far? Were there a lot of people that were joining, or just a few?
Well, they thought they was getting pretty far, but still they brought the home guards in and stopped. They were going to stop, not let them go in and take their jobs, and that's when they brought the home guards in. So that stopped that. They just stand out there and they couldn't do a thing and just let them go on in there and take their jobs.
The thing that is very
And
interesting.
that's why we didn't have a job. We didn't have no job when it was over.
How long did it take him to find another job?
I don't remember how long he was out of work. I know he worked on the WPA a good long while before he went in to organizing. And Fred Red List is the one that got him in on that with him, started him off on it.
Very interesting.
But I can't remember all that happened these years. There's too much happened in my life to remember it
That's
all.
right. I'm just so impressed that you saved that piece of paper. Can you tell me anything about those people that did join by looking at those names?
No, all I know that I remembered, the reason I remembered this, I was doing some straightening out of all my papers and things as old as I'm getting. And I went through everything that, Lord, I'd kept everything for years and years, and like even my old hospital bills and where we'd paid for furniture and stuff for years back. And I thought, what if something had happened to me and these two boys has to clean out all that mess? I got all them boxes out one night and sit down here. It was 2 o'clock. I'd throw away and put away what I needed. And somehow or another, when I run up on this, I put it in there where it was my insurance policies. I don't know why I did. Maybe it was just something that I'd went through, that I just wanted to save it. And I thought, well, maybe don't nobody else have one of them. And that's why I saved that summons was because I just didn't throw it away. And that was about 2 years ago when I cleared out all these boxes.
Now, did you go right back to work at the Gibson Mill after that?
I never
after the
have
trial
worked. I
was
never
over?
have worked at Gibson. Now I might have in '34. I don't remember whether I worked till '37 or not. I don't remember about that.
But when you all got your jobs back,
I never did. I never
so
did
that
go
wasn't
back.
about getting your jobs back. It was about getting back pay.
After these come out, we never did have no jobs no more. That when after this hearing, we never had no jobs
You didn't have any jobs where?
at Cannon Mill.
Ever?
Not until after '45, and I went to work at Plant 2.
Okay. But did they give you your back pay when these summons came out?
I believe, from my knowledge, I believe Cannon Mill settled without us all getting up there, and in court like you do and have a trial. I believe they settled with a percentage of our wages, as far as I can remember.
Were you ready to testify if they wanted you to?
No, I don't want to go in court no more. But because there are a lot I can't remember and a lot I do remember, and I just wouldn't want to.
But I was just wondering if back then, if you were angry enough to want to testify back
Oh,
then.
right then, at this time,
yeah.
yes, I would have got on the
That's
stand
what I
then.
wanted to know.
I was young then. I was ready, But now I wouldn't want to do it.
Were you angry back then? What were you feeling?
Well, we felt bad at the owners of the mill for doing us that way because it put a lot of hardships on us, and we had children to raise, and you don't know how much we done without.
Yeah, but did you feel like that you had the
Well,
right to organize?
it felt like to me. It felt like that they're taking your privileges away from you. Everybody's got their right, should have their right to believe like they want to, for it or against it. And when they do things like this, you felt like your rights was took away from you. Now, wouldn't you feel that way?
Absolutely. Was your father still living?
No, my father's been dead.
No, was he living back in 34?
Oh, yeah.
What did he think about all of this? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember. Because I know when I was little, he was involved in it. Of course, he was always a union man. He believed in it.
Did he stay working at Mills or did he go into another kind of business?
No, he stayed at Brown Mill till he got killed. He got run over in an accident. And that was bad because I was in the hospital and I'd been in there about a month, 5 or 6 weeks. I'd had to have an operation. My mother had done passed away then, and there was a little drugstore like, or
You don't want to touch the mic.
a little drugstore like, across from the hospital.
Uh-huh.
And he always treated us kind of like children. He come up there that night to see us, and he stopped at that drugstore, I'm sure, to get me some ice cream or something. He always brought me something. And he was walking across the highway up there in front of the Squares Hospital. And he was standing waiting for the traffic, and a motorcycle come down the road and hit him and killed him instantly right there in front of the hospital. And they didn't tell me about it that night because they felt like if they waited till morning, the boys did, that maybe they would let me come home from the hospital, for that, because he'd come. So for some reason, they didn't get up there early that morning. It was on a Sunday morning, Saturday night when he come up there. And Sunday morning, they threw the newspaper on my bed, and it was the headlines of the newspaper. I never will forget that. And that was in, let's see, that was 1946.
Oh.
January the 12th, 1947, that he got killed. But he always believed in the Union, I know that. But he was never out active in it like Les was, like my husband was. He's just a member. But they used to make it rough on them if they knew they joined the Union. If they just joined it.
That's why I asked you if there were people in the community that maybe ostracized you or were afraid to talk to you or didn't want to get involved with you and your husband because...
No, all my neighbors, we was always neighbors as long as we lived close. Now, they might have been hard feelings with people, but it was at a distance, not like my neighbors next door and things like that, because they knew us.
Did you ever try and get a union in ever again or get involved ever again?
Not after my husband quit organizing, because when he went to work in businesses, he quit that. He was always his own boss. Well, we just lived 2 houses from the gate, from Cannon Mill at Plant 6. And when the Home Guards was there, they would guard before they went to work to keep anybody from going in the mill from the strikers,
Were there any strikers that were trying to keep people from going into work?
keep them from going into work.
But were the strikers...
No, they were letting the people go into work, but they couldn't, the strikers, the ones that was on strike, couldn't stop them from going in.
But were there really people on the picket line trying to do that?
They were before the Home Guards come in. They moved them. They wouldn't let them
Where
picket.
did they move them to? Do you remember?
Just wouldn't let them get around the gate and picket.
And so
They could stand at a distance, but they couldn't be up and try to stop nobody from going in the
those
mill.
are the people that are on that list?
Mhm.
The boasts?
But there were a lot of people there. And my son was 4 years old, and everybody was excited about the Home Guards being right around us where I lived, right at the gate, nearly. And somebody come and told me that one morning, said, you better go out there and get Ted. Said he's out there with his little gun with the Home Guards. And I went to get him, and he was trying to tell him not to go in the mill. He'd shoot him, and he had a pop gun. His little
Was he
gun.
actually saying that?
Yeah, he know what they're supposed to stop him. He'd tell them people, said, you better not go in the mill, said you'll get shot. And he had a pop gun with a little old stopper in it. And he was 4 years old.
Oh, that is too much.
you know, the child that was just, he said he remembered that. Because he told me last night he did.
You don't forget that. And how many years has he worked at Canon?
Ever since he was 16,
And he's 61 now?
61, he'll be 61 in December. 12th day of this December, he'll be 61 years old.
That's a long time to work at that mill, huh?
But he's enjoyed his work. You know, he's been a good worker. They've never had no complaints on his work, 'cause I know his boss man told me one time there he hadn't been out a day in 7 years and a half. You got to have somebody to depend on when you've got a responsible job.
Did you feel like the union was going to get in this year?
I felt like it might. I really did.
How did that make you feel?
Well, I felt like that maybe if they did get it, that things would work out for the best. A lot of people, you know, there are a lot of people that's still against the union, and but the main thing is sticking together. They got to stick together if they ever get it.
And even sometimes it causes hardships to do that.
But if they want it bad enough and work for it hard enough, they always tell me you can get what you want if you work hard enough at it.